Hey, what up? It's been a minute since we've done one of these Cave Talk videos. I'm Derek. This is Joe. We are Cave House Studios. We've been, kind of going through a little bit of a restructuring. It's been about 2 years. We produced Bailout in 2022. A lot has changed in the last 2 years,
Yeah.
and we've kind of downsized the company in some regards, kind of sold off some of the equipment. You won't find us at cavehousestudios.com, even though we retain the domain. But, it was a large bullet point of bailout. It's baked into the name bailout, like the economic fuckery and inflation. And, you know, you, it's expensive to make short films and productions and, the camera gear and hiring and casting and crewing and going to film festivals. And that has kind of led us to transitioning towards doing more storytelling with AI. We're mostly post effects. Um, we're mostly a
Yeah.
team of post effects artists, and that's
And,
really where
and
the
trying to transition from doing like one or two short films a year to steady content,
right,
you know,
right,
um,
yeah,
which
that
lends itself to AI.
right, yeah, and that's something I've always disliked about the model of you do all this hyping up, you make a film, you're fundraising for it, and you're doing all this marketing to try to generate a buzz around it, and
Yeah.
the time you're doing that, and by the time you get to releasing it, it's been 12, 18 months, and people have moved on, people have forgotten about it, and it's
Yeah.
you want to release it when it's you've generated all the buzz after you shoot it and you cut it, and you want to share it with everybody, but you're going through this long kind of marketing process of going around to film festivals. And while I really enjoy doing that, it's a big trade-off of time and energy and money. And with artificial intelligence, well, I could just be creating more stories right now instead of
Yeah.
trying to keep telling people about the story you told a year ago. You could tell a
Yeah.
story 10 to 12 times faster than you can with traditional models. So
That's definitely true. And once you make that short film, it's really nowhere for it to go. There's no sequel. There's no additional content necessarily.
right,
Whereas, if you're trying to make like a YouTube channel or a TikTok, or you're in a steady, you're planning to produce content on a regular, or hopefully art, not just content, but you know what I mean, some cool artistic content on a regular basis. You know what I mean?
right, and that's kind of where that niche is, I think, right now
Right.
in the market. There's a lot of filmmakers who are continuing to do kind of the same kind of fundraising and casting and crewing and production, and going through the film festival circuit and looking for distribution. And then there's the
Yeah.
content creators who are not really doing any form of storytelling per se. They're just kind of using AI for the novelty of it. So there's kind of
Trailers and video, music
there's a
videos.
space in there for storytelling with AI. And I understand that there's a lot of taboo from people who are in the industry or associated with unions and stuff like that. But you know, fuck the unions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not in any of that shit. I'm
Yeah,
just a guy who wants to tell stories. I'm good at post production. I like to edit videos, and you know, in that sense, and like you were saying before, all the logistical stress that comes along with making a short film, um,
mm-hmm.
all the morale issues that you may go through throughout the process. It's like you can skip a lot of that.
Right.
Um,
It's part of being indie. You know what I mean? Part of being indie is
it
fuck
is
you.
part of being indie.
You
Yeah,
know what I mean? It's just like,
Yeah.
well, if I wanted to be a cog in the wheel, I'd go fucking work, for somebody else and go tell somebody else's
Honestly,
stories.
I
But
mean, I think more AI filmmakers need to start wielding the hammer of the gods and swinging it to tell their stories. I mean, the fact that you can just create, practically a film out of nothing is just unthinkable. Like 10 years ago, in the sense of how fast we can do it. Like I can come up with an idea within probably about 5 or 10 minutes. I'll have 20 or 30 cinematic photographs of this idea, and then a few hours after that, I can have it animated and potentially doing more or less what I needed to be doing.
yeah,
That's just
exactly. Just go right
unreal.
from pre-production into
Yeah.
post-production, and
How
you know,
how 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 can I not use this tool? It's really hard to not pick it up and use it.
Bailout was the first project where we had done like an Indiegogo, um, fundraising
Right.
campaign, and to me, I just absolutely hated the whole thing about it. I hated, the
I was so glad that you did that because I did not want to do that.
I mean, I appreciate everybody who
I mean,
contributed, and it really
yeah,
helped us make the film. But just that producing aspect of, kind of groveling for money, and it
it's a
just kind of
lot.
felt like, well, if you can't do it by yourself, then why are you asking me to help you? And I understand all the nuances of why people want to be part of the project and
It's
stuff like that, and but I just did not like it. I felt like constantly having to market this thing and keep updating the. It was just another thing to have to manage when you already got 100 different things you're trying to keep
you
track
know,
of.
and you're trying to create a film, and that's really the end game, right?
Right.
It's you have the script and ideas, um, and now you have investors. So it's like,
Right.
well,
Right. Adds another layer of trying to make everybody happy. You gotta make your crew happy. You gotta make your cast happy, and just trying to make everybody happy, and just you get spread so thin, it's hard to maintain sanity.
and just maintain the film or whatever idea you have. You're the best way to execute it would be to be focusing on that, and then you start to find yourself focusing on production logistics, and then it sort of pulls you out of that creative space because you start to get stressed out over that stuff, and then it's hard to let the ideas flow, and it's hard to really get into that headspace where you're just kicking ass and
Right.
executing ideas, coming up with new stuff. And
Your attention
yeah.
is forked in 100 different ways, so yeah, you want to
Yeah, it's so hard, man.
focus
Yeah,
on the
so
script. It's
hard.
like really hard to get grounded again with the script, and you're like, well, I want to get back to all the pre-production things and making sure the shot list is tight and the locations are good, and production design is going to be good, and
Yeah,
everybody's going to be there on their production day and stuff like that. But you know
it's
it's,
stressful.
it's just a lot of moving pieces, and really, for us, the most enjoyable parts have always been the pre-production, the formation and creation of the story and the writing, and the storytelling elements, and then the post-production, like production day, is all it's just so much stress, like you were talking about, the other day about it. It just becomes very mechanical.
It's
you,
totally, yeah, yeah.
just
You
going through
get the
this
script,
procedural list of stuff you have to
yeah,
do.
because you don't have much time. We got a day of we got production day. We have this actor, we have our crew, our DP, our everybody. We have them for one day, so we have to make sure we check all this off the list that's on the script. It doesn't really give you much time to get creative and get sort of because if you spring an idea on production day, and this has happened before, man, this would be a cool idea, but it's like, well, we got to stick to this, like first. We can't just go, and of course that's the smart thing to do because you only have a certain amount of time, and in that scenario, you want to get what's in the script. But it's sort of a bummer because you can't just be creative and just sort of. Well, I wish we had 2 production days or 3, and we could like really go crazy with this. It's just not a thing that you can do a lot of times when you're just like a small indie filmmaker. It's like you have to stick to the plan. We're executing this plan. Like, it comes like you're a robot sometimes. And you don't want to
Right.
be creative. Totally.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a matter of, well, sometimes you have to like do another shoot, right? Like, oh well, you kind of
Yeah.
had it mentally mapped where you were going to make cuts and how the things were going to flow, but it just doesn't work out like that, and it's just kind of
Yeah.
a shortcoming of how production days go, and maybe it was just kind of a clerical error of well, we had a shot list that that included that stuff, but it got mixed up, and we had an old shot list, or there's 100
Did
different
that
reasons
happen?
why
I don't
things
remember
could go wrong.
But that could go wrong. I could see that happening. I don't think that happened to us. I don't think. Did that happen?
No, I mean, I don't think that's ever really. I mean, we've always been able to,
It could though.
put a story together in post, but I guess
Yeah.
maybe I'm leading the horse a little bit here as to how fluid things can be with the new AI tool set. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, well, you were talking a lot about this when we were talking about the mechanical nature of productions and how working with an AI tool set is the total opposite. Like, you have total fluidity of you're going right from pre-production into production where you're creating at
Yep.
the speed of your ideas. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, oh well, I want the character to go over here to the freaking bordello, and well, that didn't really work out. Let's go to an opium den instead. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's just like, oh well,
Go to the hotel.
didn't cost us anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just pivot right there, and
Yeah.
it cuts out all of the things that make a production expensive, and for us keeps all the elements that make it fun. The pre-production and the post-production. So still able to tell
Yeah.
creative stories and still work with editing tool sets, still using the Adobe tool set plus 24 or more other generative AI tools.
Yeah. No, it's exciting because you're really you're doing it all at once. You're creating as you create ideas, and I can be editing and say I need this shot, and I can just with the AI tools that we have these days, you can just go get it and plug it right in within a few minutes. And that's a hard tool not to use. It's hard not to pick up the hammer of the gods and start swinging it around. I mean, there are a lot of weird glitches in it from time to time, but there's a lot of shitty stuff that happens when you're making films from time to time. Like, oh, we forgot to get this shot. Now we have to work around it. I mean, the thing that's really cool to me, though, is the ability to just sort of go wild with your ideas, and there's really no huge consequence. Say I spend all night working on something in an AI, scene or something. If I decide tomorrow I don't like it anymore, I don't have to tell the actor I cut all your just cut all your scenes.
Right.
It's just kind of, I don't have to try and explain this to anyone or anything. We can just, we got a new idea and we're gonna go in this direction, and it's not like a huge loss of investment. Like, well, we spent all this time on this scene and money. So there's that too. Is that you can sort of play around in a sense and try and figure out what works best. get the story told. Um, Once you start to get a hang of the tool set, you could make consistent characters in AI, and you can pull off dialogue. Like I said, there is clunkiness to it, just like the early Godzilla films or something. But
Right.
if but there's plenty of awesome stories, animated stories, cartoons, video games from the mid 2000s like Red Dead Redemption or GTA or something like that had amazing stories that you loved, and the animation and stuff was kind of clunky. But when you go back and watch those old cutscenes from GTA or Red Dead, you have a nostalgia for them. They're cool, and they still hold up because of the characters. If you have good characters and a good story, you can get away with a lot of AI fuckery, for lack of a better term. Just sort of some of the AI
Just the rough edges.
glitches that sort of come out sometimes, but
Right.
I don't know. I don't think it's game breaking, is what I'm saying. I think you can still tell your story and work around it in the same way that you can in a production when somebody doesn't show up that day. You have to fill in it with a different actor, or when your equipment's you lose all your audio that day, but you still figure it out. Um, these sort of things happen in the traditional way of filmmaking as well. You run into glitches and problems, so you're always going to have once you get things into post, you're always going to have some obstacles to get around. But
Right.
I don't think
There's always going to be some challenges, and especially working with emerging technology, and kind of being a early adopter of sorts. That you're going to have to work with some of the hiccups and some of the blemishes. But I think
honestly, it's fun though. Just real quick, talking about the new technology, it's fun to work with some new stuff. Once you've been doing short films in sort of the traditional style for like 20 years, like we have, or close to 20 years, we're some old guys. We've been doing this stuff, making documentaries and music videos, and we've been using these tools for a long time. Short films, web series stuff. It's fun to try out sort of a new style. Like, well, let's see what we can do with these tools. So
yeah, and I mean this new style is going to be the style at some point. I mean, you see it with Adobe toolset, like they've already adopted it, right? I mean, generative prompting is already
content is king. I mean, you have to be generating content, and this is just like it's almost like a Paul Bunyan type situation or something. It's just like, well, this can just generate content so much faster, and eventually, it's gonna chop down more trees. It's just gonna be the better tool.
Yeah, it's just
if I got that
going
story
to
right,
be
I think I did.
the tool set. Yeah, Paul Bunyan's coming to chop your shit down.
Is he the one that wins? I can't remember.
Anyway. Yeah, I think it was the Ox who won. But
the Ox, yeah. Was it the Ox?
I don't know.
Was he Paul's friend or something?
Yeah, I think they were a team.
Like the machine, it was like the log chopping machine and Paul Bunyan machine.
Yeah,
I think won. I may be totally wrong on that old folktale, but what I'm saying is that this new tool is for sure. I mean, it's just too powerful to not pick up. I mean, if you're a filmmaker, if you want to tell stories, it is such a powerful tool.
And
never been anything like this.
It's allowing us to tell a story that we've wanted to tell since we first got together and started kicking around ideas for what type of stories do we want to tell as Cave House. We've always had this concept of we like to tell stories within a Lovecraft world, but that's a difficult thing to do, for various reasons. For one, just the level of effects work you would need to pull off some of the monsters and creatures would be a large challenge to make it believable,
and to do a period piece that doesn't seem cheesy. We've talked about, we've kicked around doing period pieces for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, is it gonna come off sort of
Right.
just B movie in the worst possible way. Just
Right. Yeah, it's hard.
inauthentic, and yeah,
With
it's
the
hard.
costuming
Period
and the
piece. Yeah,
lighting and the
we've talked about
production
colonial
design.
stuff. Yeah,
Right. Right. Yeah, the original concept for Succubi Scribe was going to be a period piece.
yeah. It's just so daunting to try and do a period piece. You know, yeah, like you were saying, production design, art direction, costumes, wardrobe. Um, it's so hard to do.
So yeah, well,
And
tell them a little bit
really,
about what we're doing.
we've had this idea for a long time, um, of a Lovecraftian horror show set in Arkham, where really kind of Arkham is really sort of the character in a way. Um, and where we're just it's the 1920s. It's Arkham, Massachusetts, the fictional town in the Cthulhu mythos, and there's just a lot of crazy stuff happening in Arkham and in Miskatonic University, and so we've decided to make a show in Arkham, which we've talked about for years, and we've got 2 episodes done, and we're working on the third, and I don't see any reason why we can't keep making these. They're not super expensive to make. I could probably make an episode for about $40-50, and that's incredibly. Succubi Scry cost us several $1,000s to make. Between
Mm-hmm.
paying for everything, and hiring people and equipment and everything that it takes to make. We're making something on a level we've never really done before for way cheaper. It's just not even close. And the ability to crank them out. I finished an episode in 2 weeks. So that's just hard to beat. Normally it would be 2 weeks of just pre-production. It would take us 2 weeks to just write the script and plan thing. It would probably take us longer than that, actually.
Yeah.
Um,
And telling a story in an IP that already has a deep lore to it, allows us to borrow some characters, like some of the characters we're using in this first couple episodes here from Whisper in the Darkness, and then layer on some of our characters that we've created. We're following this character, Frank O'Neill, who's the detective that's investigating the mysteries of the Cthulhu mythos and the surrounding mysteries of Arkham itself, along with some characters from the Arkham of Horror. Did I say that right?
Arkham Horror video,
The Arkham Horror
board
sorry,
game.
I got that a little mixed up there. Yeah. So
Yeah.
fans of the RPG and fans of Lovecraft short form storytelling, I think hopefully will appreciate what we're doing here, staying true to the canon, and
It's one of those things you
making a
always
fun
see.
world.
Yeah, exactly. It's you always see Cthulhu for president every election cycle. It's just the fan base is there. People know the world, and it's different levels of fans. I feel like with Lovecraft, but I also feel like Lovecraft's one of those things that's kind of open for people to sort of delve into the mythos and create stories in. And I feel like that's always been sort of the vibe with Lovecraft. And so, I've been having a lot of fun, imagining and coming up with stories in that world.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It has been a lot of fun, and I hope everybody else has just as much fun watching it. Should we show the trailer?
Yeah, let's watch the trailer for Echoes of Arkham.
Arkham. a city where shadows hold secrets and only the desperate search for answers. Frank O'Neill, investigator of the unknown. An orphan turned scholar of forbidden lore, he's Arkham's last defense against horrors that defy reason. Haunted but relentless, he battles the darkness to protect those he loves and to solve Arkham's darkest mysteries.
All right, hopefully everybody enjoyed that. You can follow us on our Instagram page, Echoes of Arkham. You can subscribe on our Echoes of Arkham YouTube channel, where we'll be releasing the trailer independently and subsequent episodes coming in 2025. We're still working through the logistics of like what a release cadence will be, but you'll find all that information between those two outlets right now. So, Joe, you got anything else?
Yeah, no, I'm just looking forward to a year of just telling awesome stories in Arkham and trying out all the new tools, having
2025.
fun.
It's going to be kick-ass.
Yeah, that's what's up.
All right, y'all. Happy New Year. Peace.
Happy New Year.